welcome to DevTool Times. So if you're new to the show, DevTool Time is a bi-monthly web series where we invite awesome developers such as Paul Jolly today, who will showcase their favorite dev tools, their workspace, workflows, and also share some productivity hacks with us. Let's kick it off with some introduction. My name is Vanessa Ortiz. I'm the community advocate at SourceGraph, and I'll pass it on to my co-host, Byung Liu.
Hey everyone, I'm Byung. I'm the CTO, co-founder at SourceGraph, and really excited to chat with Paul today. He's going to show off his workstation as well as Q.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me on this show today. My name is Paul Jolly. I'm one of the core maintainers of the Q project. I also co-created Play with Go, which is a series of tooling-based guides to the Go programming language. I contribute to the Go project as well. Created govim, which is a plugin, a Go-based plugin for Go development, which we'll talk a bit about later on. And I help maintain a number of other open source projects as well.
Nice. And if you want to follow Q on Twitter, definitely follow him there, somewhere here on the screen. And yeah, how about we just start off with, how about the image of your workspace? Do you have that handy?
I do.
There you go. I love the dictionary.
Oh, you got a printer.
Yes, this the printer is just something I found myself having to buy last year, which was, I felt very sad about having to buy a printer.
How did you solve it before then? You didn't have one at home?
I just managed to avoid it, but for some reason with kids, and there are certain forms that need filling out on paper, and so the printer arrived.
Yep.
Nice.
I had to go through the same a few months ago.
Yeah,
also, no more printing at the office.
Yeah.
It's not a thing anymore.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's a fairly basic setup, to be honest with you. A standing desk is something that I've really gotten used to over the last 6 or so years. I find that just as a productivity hack, I find that helps massively because I just stay a lot more awake because I'm standing.
Yeah.
How long are you able to stand for at a time? Because I've found, I've used standing desks in the past, and I get a little tired after maybe like 20 minutes, and then I sit right back down.
I stand the whole time.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're standing now.
How many hours is that?
So if you see me sort of rocking around like this, it's I am literally standing. I haven't actually had a seat for years. There's another productivity hack. You save money on not having to buy a chair. But no, it's just something that I've gotten used to. And as I said, it keeps me much more energized and awake. So
Awesome.
I should try that out. I remember you mentioned that your MacBook isn't the newest.
It's definitely not, no. Yeah, no, it's a late 2013 MacBook Pro. I think it was, having spoken to some of the folks who work in Apple stores, they say it's one of the best MacBook Pros there was, just in terms of the combination of kit. Importantly, it's got the real-life function keys as well, which I use heavily within my developer workflow. No touch bar for me. But it is getting quite old now, and it sort of it does sound like it's taking off at times. So I'm very much looking forward to the announcement of the new MacBook Pro. And I saw in your tweet that you were disappointed not to see the new MacBook Pros announced yesterday, but somebody tells me that they will actually be announced next month.
Ooh.
So fingers crossed for that.
Insider. Right. Is there anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah, I don't think so, really. Other than about the actual hardware itself, it's very uninteresting. Just regular set of headphones there and mic that sort of has become pretty much the standard home office setup these days, right? So nothing else to mention there. Yeah,
how do you actually manage to? I mean, you're a developer. You are running really hardcore things on your laptop, I would assume, or do you use something to help you balance the load?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Actually, I do most of my development within Linux itself. And like one of your previous guests, I use VMware Fusion on top of macOS and then run Linux within VMware Fusion, which works incredibly well. Indeed, it's actually more performant as far as disk access is concerned than running, say, for example, the Go compiler natively on top of macOS itself. So bizarrely, running within a VMware on top of macOS is more performant.
Why is that?
I've no idea. There are actual numbers to prove it as well.
Wow.
Yeah. I certainly it's above my grade to understand those sorts of things. It was just something I noticed in sort of comparison when we were I can't remember what we were debugging an issue, a Go issue, and I was just doing a comparison with how it performed on macOS natively as opposed to within Linux, because I can easily flip between the two, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was way more performant. I think it was in the early days of modules, actually, because modules does a lot, obviously, in terms of accessing files on disk.
Yeah.
In the Go world, when it's, for example, parsing the module cache or whatever it might be, things were just significantly more performant. I couldn't believe it, and no,
that's crazy.
We did a bit more digging, and it was verified on other bits of hardware. This may well have resolved itself in sort of later versions of macOS, but on the version that I'm stuck on, it's definitely still an issue.
Nice. Well, do you want to just showcase everything from your desktop?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, this is pretty much it. Michael Staplebug was one of your previous guests, and he wrote the i3 window manager.
Oh, you use i3? Yes.
No, I'm not using i3. No, I built it up and then I just took it away there. This is kind of like one of the predecessors to i3. I think it's called Awesome. But it looks very like i3, and indeed, I think the migration path to i3 is hopefully going to be fairly straightforward. So as you can see here, I just have a number of just within the window manager. Hopefully this is actually clear. It looks like it. They're not actually called workspaces in Awesome. I think they're just called windows or something like that. And you have the concept of just like multiple windows here. And you can see within that I have a fully tiled terminal, very plain terminal as well, just Xterm for speed. And then within that I've got a very dark base theme, just because I find that's much easier on the eyes. And Vim is my editor of choice here. Nothing really to say about that other than it is Vim as opposed to Neovim, which I think TJ would be a bit disappointed at.
He's in the audience.
He's in the comments right now.
But no,
wait, why Vim and not Neovim? If you're willing to disclose.
No, surely. It was actually, so back in the day, this is sort of like 2014-ish, I got interested in Neovim because it was really kicking off around that time. And also wrote a sort of proof of concept Go plugin manager for Neovim at the time as well, because I was writing a lot of Go, and I wanted to write Go plugins for Neovim. So I wrote a sort of proof of concept at the time, but then just didn't really stick with it. I can't remember for what reason, to be honest with you. This is all pre-Go Please, many years before Go Please sort of existed. So Vim Go was still the thing that was the main plugin for Go development in both Vim and Neovim. So there wasn't any distinguishing features. Then Vim itself, Bram Moulinar started to do a bit more development on Vim and really enhance things like the plugin support. And also sort of adding features that were very well oriented towards like language servers. So pop-ups found their way into Vim as well. And it was just at the same time that the stuff was really picking up speed on the Neovim side of things. And I just thought, I'm keen to write a plugin host in Vim or Neovim. The Vim stuff was coming along nicely. I'd just been using Vim for forever at that point. I thought, I'm just going to go with Vim. And so that was actually when I started writing govim, the Go-based plugin for Go development in Vim. And it just, I haven't actually moved from there because I have everything that I need within Vim. There's so many reasons I get it to move to Neovim, and there's people twisting my arm the whole time. I just haven't got around to considering it properly. It's one of those things that's on the list.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm sure TJ will be interested in collaborating.
Yeah,
and why not Emacs, if you don't mind? I'm just kidding. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Let's move on.
20, I think it's like 21 years of Vim. I've never even loaded Emacs. So.
Got it. If you're listening out there and you use Emacs, DM me. Would love to get you on the show.
Moral support required, right?
I do feel like the most of our guests have been on the Vim and Neovim side.
It's just a never-ending stream of Vim.
Can I just say better luck next time, Biang, right? So it's really nothing against Neovim. I think that the work they've done on that project is fantastic, because they sort of, with Neovim, they've also reduced the bust factor, if you like, associated with Vim, of sort of Bram being the main contributor. And I think that's an important thing from an open source project's perspective. And they've just added a ton of features as well. The inbuilt LSP support is, I think, a really critical one, because that sort of brings Vim on a par with things like VS Code. Just that out-of-the-box experience is, I think, the kind of thing that people are really looking for in an editor. So, yeah, other than that, I can just sort of have a quick demonstration here, if you like. Oops, hang on.
Yeah, your workflow.
Yeah, just so, for example, this is, now I'm in the Q project here. And the directory here. So this is a Go-based project, obviously. And what I tend to use within Vim quite a lot of the time is a plugin called FZF. Indeed, FZF also exists on the command line as well, if your viewers are familiar with that. So you have this fuzzy finding type completion. So here I'm just looking to complete a file name. So for example, it doesn't matter what it is. And so there, just with FZF, I've actually just been able to fuzzy find and complete a file name for, well, in this case, it's just the command ls. But FZF has this wonderful feature that same UI exists within Vim as well. So I use it considerably within Vim. So here is like the FZF UI within Vim. So here I'm just fuzzy finding to open a file, and now I've opened that file. But one of the really cool things that they've done with Go Please, they have symbol search working across your entire workspace. And your entire workspace is really defined as your main module and all its dependencies. So here I'm within the Q project, and so the main module is the Q project itself. So now I can jump into symbol search within this and then just fuzzy type a value here. I'm sort of being a bit more precise, and do things like also providing regular expression type values here. And now I can jump to this symbol here. Now this starts to get super powerful. So now I'm not a mouse person at all. These are all keyboard shortcuts, and indeed I can just sort of show you how I'm triggering that. So I use /s in order to actually trigger the symbol-based search. Then obviously typing something like that takes me to it. And then within there, I'm just using a lot of keyboard shortcuts for, say, jumping to definition, jumping out of definition, finding references. And then down at the bottom here, let me just turn off the keyboard shortcuts for a second. The quick fix window within Vim I use a lot, and I actually use it in a sort of overloaded capacity here with my Go development and sort of edit development. So here it's being used for the actual references that I just searched for, the references to the runtime type. And then I've got another plugin that I use quite heavily that is called, it's by a sort of fairly prolific Vim plugin author called Tim Pope, and it's called Unimpaired. And it's just got some really sensible defaults for actually all the common types of Vim action. So for example, here we're looking at the references to the runtime type. Let me just turn on the keyboard shortcuts again. And what you can then do is you can iterate through those references just using, here I'm just using, you can see the square bracket Q to the next one, or open square bracket Q to go to the previous one. Or to jump to the first one. So this has now just become muscle memory for me. And it was only through sort of like a demonstration from somebody that said, hey, consider this plugin here. But I find it, when you actually build it into your workflow and then you reuse this quick fix window quite a lot of the time, because errors also appear within here. For example, I'm just going to create some errors within the project here. Now you can see I've created a whole load of errors off the back of breaking the name of this field here. That same quick fix window is being used for all the errors associated with the change that I've just made. So this is super powerful to my mind, to be able to have these basic concepts within here, and just the same sort of keyboard shortcuts, whether you're searching for references or iterating through breakages that you might have in your build as well. So yeah, otherwise it's a fairly plain setup. The only real demands that I have of my setup here are that it's nice and fast, which is why it's a sort of a fairly plain and simple Xterm setup here. I just need it to be nice and snappy.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you use autocomplete at all? Is that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. Let's just take this example here. All of this actually comes from Go please, obviously, because here I'm using govim within Vim, and govim is talking to a go please backend. Indeed, one of the nice things about go please is that they have this concept of a remote go please instance as well. And so even though this is all by remote, it's all local to my machine here. But between, let's say, for example, I'm then on another window here. This is actually Q, but let's just say we were to jump to another, and just open another, I don't know, whatever Go file here. This is now using the same Go please instance on the back end. And so from an efficiency perspective, there's a lot more shared caching going on. And so things like code completion, caching of all the symbol types, except all the symbols when it comes to symbol search, that all is now shared but in that single remote instance of Go please. And so the Go please authors have done a fantastic job there of making the development experience with Go super snappy by those sorts of features. So yeah, code completion is very fast as a result.
Awesome.
I also got very basic things like mouse over. I don't use the mouse, but if I have just put the cursor over that type there, but I can trigger the same things using the keyboard as well if I want to pull up the documentation for something just quickly. The resolution on my screen here is much higher than it would be for ordinary dev work, which is why things are sort of slightly rolling off to the right a bit.
Got it. We got a lot of love for T-Pope in the chat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, just prolific. I mean, I can count maybe 5, 6, 7 plugins that I use from Tim Pope. Fugitive is another one, which is all about sort of Git integration. So here you can see I've just done a Git blame on the file itself. The Emacs users will complain that this is nowhere near as good as the Emacs plugins. Yeah, I get that, but
the Magit plugin.
Yeah,
for Emacs.
Other fun things like just simple stuff, for example. So if I just highlight these two parts of this file here, this is like a visual selection in Vim. Yeah. Another one is what's called commentary, which allows you to comment and uncomment blocks of a file, whether they just be some sort of motion that says, I want to comment out this section here. It's just such a simple thing, but a plugin like that becomes super powerful where you can comment and uncomment things in a language sort of in a way that respects the language that you're currently working with. So it's just small things like that, which when combined really make sort of your development experience that much more pleasant.
Cool. What does your Vimrc look like with all these plugins?
It's not actually that exciting, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's really I don't have it shared on the basis that I don't trust myself not to put sensitive stuff in my config files and or sort of keep track of making sure I haven't put sensitive stuff in my config files. But generally speaking, it is just this very plain list of plugins being loaded there with then optional configuration on top of those. So it's the loading of the plugins, then the configuration on top. govim we've got sensible-ish defaults with govim, but again, for things like the symbol search stuff, that all just needs a bit of tweaking for the custom setup that I have here.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else sort of go wise that is worth talking about govim. We sort of talked a bit about govim.
What about Plan 9 for Vim space?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So that really, let me just think, what's the main reason that I use that now? Because it's actually sort of been superseded by a couple of other plugins that I use. Actually, the main one is as follows. Trying to think of a good example here. So if you imagine, let me just break something here. I'm just going to do something really bad in here, okay, and then if we then just do a go build command go, for example, oops, where are we? Sorry, command Q, wrong. What am I doing here? Go command Q. this should actually fail. Fine. So one of the things that Plan 9 for Vim space, and this is really comes from the Plan 9 operating system itself, is this output that you see from the Go compiler here. We have the name of the file, colon the line number, colon the column offset here. What's nice is to be able to actually, within Vim, for example, well, let me just do it over here, just copy and paste that. And I find myself doing this a lot, despite having good integration within the editor. And this then works, except I'm in the wrong directory. Let's just fix that. Command Q. That then works to take you to the offset.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's why having good consistency in terms of tooling output, to my mind, is really important, is that you can then compose things in a really nice way in terms of workflows. Yeah. So having standard output in terms of compilers, and this is why I had a bit of a gripe with the way that TypeScript decided to output, this is going back a number of years, but output their compiler errors in a different format. It made that people then sort of had to adjust their tooling in order to work with the output from the TypeScript compiler, whereas okay, if there was sort of some standard that could be agreed on, then all editors would be able to use that sort of output. And I realize that sort of LSP has sort of taken away the real need for this kind of thing. But generally speaking, that sort of composition of tooling is a really nice thing. So that's the main reason that I use Plan 9 for Vim space. I think there were other things, but I can't remember off the top of my head now. That was the main one.
Got it. So you weren't using any of the like Acme emulation features like mouse.
No, there was no. So there's a whole load of stuff that exists within that project as well to do with mouse chords and things like that. And I've never been a big mouse user. So Russ Cox gave a really good demo of how he uses Acme, and it uses the mouse heavily, and I've never got into that. So.